Hello, folks, and welcome to our game with myself, Shane Stapleton. As always, here with Michael Verney. We're like a bad spell here every Monday afternoon talking all things GA. Michael, what was your weekend like of GA? Did you get to see much?
Good, yeah. I saw a couple of games yesterday. I was down in Carlow as well. Yeah, busy weekend. Asher, like it was great. There was four Leinster games on yesterday. Two on early, kind of two on late, so you could kind of dip in and out of nearly all four of them. But yeah, suppose probably as odds wise games, but the games probably went as scripted. But there was plenty of drama along the way, lots of it.
Do you think red cards have been brandished a little bit too easily now in GA? I'd say it's gone a little bit like soccer. I look at what happened at, I suppose, the game that you were at yesterday. Like the first yellow card that Diarmuid Byrne, I should say. He's the captain of Mount Leinster, but he was only reduced to coming on late on, presumably down to injury. He got a yellow card because they were trying to get them on, couldn't get him on. He got a yellow for coming on the field, and then red carded for a deserved second yellow. Then we also saw Cillian Doyle getting sent off for a Harney. The first yellow card, nobody's really sure what it was for. Second one, there was a bit of a melee. It was hard to tell with the footage, but fair enough if he did something in the melee. But it just feels like it's just a bit too handy to get sent off these days for a couple of little things. We all know if there's a couple of sort of not quite, somewhere between yellow and red cards, yeah, person deserves to go. But it just feels like sometimes it's a bit too handy.
Yeah, it used to take a lot to get sent off in hurling or football, whereas now it could be 2 or 3 fouls, none of them particularly dangerous, something like that, and they could be sent off. The Diarmuid Byrne one was a bit mad. And like I'm always sympathetic with teams and sympathetic with players, but I think they only have themselves to blame here, really. Like in the 39th minute, he comes on for Tony Lawler, who started in his place because he was injured. But he just came on himself at the 45-yard line. Like I didn't see anything given to a fourth official, and they didn't hold the hand up to stop the play. They didn't put the board up or anything like that. He entered at the 45. I think that the rule is you have to enter between the two 65s. And I know that you can say that's stupid or whatever, but it is to prevent the sort of crack that we had in the All-Ireland club final, or supposed to be to prevent that type of thing. So, like, as an experienced player, like, it's just a bit mad. Like, you can't just walk onto a game. It's not a challenge game. Like, you have to go through
the official. Sympathy by the sounds of it.
Not really. Like, it's mad maybe that he gets a yellow for it, but I presume the deterrent is there to make sure that more people aren't just trying it. Now, it was mad because Tony Lawler was up in the stand. So Diarmuid Byrne came on the 39th minute. Tony Lawler was up in the stand. Then Diarmuid Byrne had to come back off. Tony Lawler had to come back down from the stand, back onto the pitch, and then Diarmuid Byrne got on 2 minutes later. But of course, that had a direct consequence on him getting sent off, in the 53rd minute, 12 minutes after coming on, when they really had a head of steam built up and it looked like maybe something was brewing, and then he's sent off. And then all of a sudden Luke Hogan gets a goal 3 minutes later and the game is over. Would Luke Hogan have went through as easy if Diarmuid Byrne was on the pitch at centre-back? Maybe not. I don't have much sympathy for the yellow, but honest with you, I don't. I think it was foolish enough on their part.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, and Paul O'Brien, the manager, said that afterwards. We tried to do things right when we had a free, get a fella on, get a fella off. The fella that came off the field was off the field. He was up in the stand, and then he had to go from the stand back to the pitch, as you said. Like, that kind of stuff is ridiculous, and I'm not making an excuse out of it. It's just silly, just trying to put a sub on, and there's an F&R deal to it. So, look, that's the state of it. The same with the Cillian Doyle one. I just felt, everyone seemed to be a little bit puzzled by the first card. We all know that you're kind of running the risk once you're on a yellow already. You kind of have to play nice then for the rest of the game, and you can be a little bit unfortunate, or you can get involved in something you don't. But yeah, it just feels like it's a little too handy. But look, in the case of the Mount Leinster one, if you're saying that they didn't follow protocol, unless there was a situation where they were trying to legitimately get the player on following protocol and the officials messed up. But if it wasn't the case of the officials messing up, you have to just say, Diarmuid would have to take that on the chin himself.
Yeah, it looked like he was definitely coming on in the wrong area of the pitch. It was just, I'm sure he was just mad to get on. Do you know, you've been like that in the game. You're just mad to get on, and it's like John Aldridge back in '94 against Mexico. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you're just eager to get on the pitch, and kind of all kind of sense maybe goes out the window, or protocol or whatever. But it was funny because Sean Stack was the linesman that side. And he's a Dublin man, obviously, and Paul O'Brien was on the line for Mount Leinster, and he's a Dublin man as well. I'm sure they've come across each other fairly regular, up and down. But he just, like, I would have an issue with that was given a yellow card, all right. I would have an issue with something that Sean Stack missed right in front of him, in front of the stand, where in the second half, where Chris Nolan looked to shove his hurl down on top of one of the O'Loughlin lads 2 or 3 times, which it looked to me to be right in front of him. Now, if you're talking about red cards or yellow cards, to me that was blatant, and I was amazed it wasn't seen. And you can see it clearly on the footage on Clubber after. It was a bizarre incident.
Yeah, 𝘱𝗵𝗵𝘀𝘀𝘁 man is saying, very fussy from a ref that let an awful lot go for both sides, I thought. And Emil89 says, should that not be yellow for management instead of the players? It's not really a deterrent though if it goes to their management, is it? Like, it almost becomes unenforceable. Sure, like, what manager wouldn't be happy to be sent 5 yards back up into the stand over something like that?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it wasn't the management that went on to the pitch or actually broke the rule. And I agree with Joe Butler. He says lots of fussiness and whatever, and yellow has been handed out very easily. On like rules are not common sense always, unfortunately, but that is the rule. If you come on and you don't follow the protocol coming on, it's a yellow card. And there was just a sense, you kind of just knew when he was coming on that something might happen. I remember Portumna played James Stephens years ago in an All-Ireland semi-final, and the same thing happened. Shane Egan, he was a sub for James Stephens. He ended up getting a yellow while warming up or getting tangled with someone. He came onto the pitch and got a yellow as well a couple of minutes later and was sent off. And it can easily happen.
Yeah, I've been yellow carded for coming onto the field and immediately getting involved in a small bit of bargy with my marker, Niall Corcoran. But, you know, you're just engaged in a few shoulders. That's absolutely harmless. It's just like you're in a match and you get this kind of, I suppose both players get something into their head that I'm not backing down here. And then you do a few stupid shoulders. I actually remember Austin Gleeson and David McInerney. This must be 6 or 7 years ago. Ozzy had obviously been out injured. He'd obviously be starting. But he came on and they did, I think I counted at the time, 9 big shoulders against each other. It looked absolutely stupid. But, you know, we've all been there.
It's kind of like a rite of passage when you come on the pitch. It's like you have to do it. Like,
well, if the other lad shapes up for it, if the other lad or if you feel they are, and then, you know, it can happen out of nowhere.
Has it ever happened to you that you went to give a lad a dunk like that and he just stepped out of the way and you fell onto the ground? That happened to me once in a championship game and it was quite embarrassing. And then obviously, of course, I wanted to hit him again. Then, you know what I mean? And make up for it and hit him twice as hard. But didn't Shawnee Tobin from Limerick get a red card back in the day for coming on and giving a lad the hands of the hurl maybe straight?
I think so, yeah.
Harmless. It was so harmless. But you're just trying to get into the game, and you've probably noticed it as well. The hardest thing when you're coming into a game is to get up to the pitch of it. So you kind of feel sometimes like you need to get into that physical pitch straight away and get kind of tuned in straight away. But if you go in, you can easily end up on a yellow and you can easily end up on the line.
Yeah, you could, of course. And so, like, we'll come back to the hurling in a second and circle back to those games. But the advanced mark being taken a couple of times in matches over the weekend, somebody hits like a crossfield ball and someone is 40 yards out and they catch it. And it's a legitimate mark with the rules. But I saw one of the games, I can't remember, was it Naomh Conaill or who was it? Maybe Scottstown. Player caught the ball 40 yards out. The player has to stop for him to shape up what he'll do, and then he hit a kick backwards. Now, that's different to Kieran Hughes firing over a bomb from 40 yards out. That's brilliant. But it's very few players that can do that. Like, if you're playing on a team and an opposition wins a mark 40 yards out, you're pretty much happy enough with that. It's like once in a blue moon type player that's going to put it over. So in general, like saying, well, look at what Kieran Hughes did. That'll force teams to press up. It won't. That's an edge case. We have to realise that this attacking mark is ridiculous. The only way it works for me is if it's a ball delivered outside the 45 to inside the 21. I won't accept anything else. Because otherwise, stopping up the game unnecessarily.
It's a crazy rule. A crazy rule. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Where's the momentum to get this rule killed, like, by the way?
Well, to be fair, like, I've never heard anyone talking for it.
Yeah, really. But to get rid of it, we need a bit of a wave of momentum to get rid of this thing.
But the thing is, once something is in, it's hard to get rid of. How it ended up in the first place is mystifying, really. How anybody thought that this was going to help football or make football any better, I don't know. Like, fair play to Kieran Hughes, he was able to kick the point or whatever. And, like, listen, fair play to the Scottstown lads in particular. That's the rule that's in. They use it to their benefit. That's fair enough. But it does not make football any more appetizing on the eye. Far from it. And then there's the whole thing of even sometimes, but you've been there as well, where you're saying take the attack and mark, particularly inside the 14 or something when you really, really need a score. Then there's times where a lad can't get his hand up or he's falling to the ground or something like that. It's just a crazy rule. It makes no sense. but it doesn't look like there's any wave of momentum to get rid of it. It's probably the worst rule we've ever had in the GAA that's been sustained and carried on for a couple of years. We've had rules that have come in for a year or trial period or whatever, and even the rules that are in at freshers hurling and football at the moment, they've been trialed or whatever. This isn't been trialed. This is in. And it's still in, and it's still in for 2024, and there's no sign of it being gone for 2025. I do not see the pros of this rule. I only see the cons.
Yeah, and you know what? Like a bit like what we were talking about last week in terms of the rule in terms of ring fencing teams into the Loughry-Maher, and we did that great show with Peter Fortune of Louth and Martin Fogarty at the tail end of last week. It's only if this wave of momentum goes behind it that notion will be killed. And these rules that are being trialled at Fresher, if there's enough dissent, it'll kill them. So do you feel like there's that this notion of the Loughry-Maher teams being ring-fenced, is that going to get killed?
I hope so. There's been a hell of a lot of talk about it, and there was even more after we had a good chat about it on Thursday. And Martin Fogarty's words seem to have gone the length and breadth of the country. I was at the Gaelic Writers Award on Friday night, and Sambo McNaughton came over to me with that handout stretch, just saying thanks even for bringing it up, like, and because it means a hell of a lot to a lot of people. And I even saw a great tweet from Adrian Moore, and I don't know, is he still the Longford manager, but he was definitely the Longford hurling manager in 2023 and even the previous years. Just a picture of the jerseys lined up, the Longford jerseys lined up for a championship game, and the programme underneath, and the water and the 𝘧𝘶𝘢𝘁𝘮 bottle all underneath. Perfect prep for a championship game. It was like, same sacrifices, but they're being treated completely differently, and that is the way. So hopefully there'll be a swell of outrage, I would say. It nearly has to be against it, because it's the only thing you nip it in the bud there and then, because if it comes in, that has disastrous consequences for those 5 counties, disastrous consequences for hurling in general. Who will be the counties, as Martin Fogarty, who will be the next couple of counties that will join in on that? The potential, the likes of the Roscommons, etc., just needs to be nipped in the bud straight away.
Yeah, River Power says Hercules cut his gruig. I was wondering why Verney's room was so bright, said PWell74.
There's a lot of light and stuff been able to let in now that was previously shielded.
Yeah. And you were saying to me that to stop yourself getting a cold, especially this time of the year now, when you cut off that amount of gruig, it's a significant amount, and I'm sure you've kind of donated it to charity or pillow making companies or something like that. You were saying there's a little trick there to stop yourself getting a cold. I didn't know about this.
It's probably an old wives' tale. My mother always said, take off your t-shirt or whatever, clean the back of your neck with a wet towel, cold water, and let it dry itself naturally. It's always worked for me, to be honest with you. The one time I didn't do it, I got the head skint on the Saturday before a big Leinster soccer final on the Monday, and ended up with the borderline pneumonia. I'd say I had a fever playing the match.
Soccer?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh geez, well able to play soccer. Yeah, we won the under 16 League Cup and double with Burr. We won the B League and we won the A Cup. We beat Longford Town in the final. We scored 3 goals in the cup run, and somehow I managed to score all 3 of them. But we won 1-0, 1-1 in penalties against Tullamore, and then we beat Longford Town 1-0. So yeah, and looks can be deceiving. Looks can be very deceiving.
Yeah. Who'd know that you're competent? Did you did you play in any interesting grounds when you were playing soccer?
Oh yeah, we played in Mel's. We played in Mel's Park one time. That was deadly. Because it was by far, you're usually just playing on school grounds, but we played a Leinster final of some kind. Might have been a regional final in Mel's, and it's deadly, like, because it's just, even Mel's wouldn't be like one of the bigger grounds like Talca Park or anything like that, but it was still pretty cool. It's a deadly experience. Yeah, we played the Leinster final in Newbridge on a back pitch. It was mad. A back pitch, and I was there thinking there was going to be scouts at this game and how big it was, and the quality was brilliant. It was actually really good. We were bet on penalties. Penalties the same day. But no, Mel's Park by far the best ground we played it.
And did you ever go up to header a ball and it got stuck in your nest, your rat's nest?
Ooh, no.
Where did you play? What position?
I played centre half for the school, and then ended up front other times as well. Sweeper usually, actually. Just
Lovely.
like that, look. Just like that.
Yeah,
all day. There was a great one day where we were trying to stop Killie to win the league. Killie had to beat us in Burr to win the league. So Frank O'Connelly was our great manager at the time, since deceased, unfortunately, lovely man. he decided he didn't have a great draw for Killy, so we played 2 sweepers and then 3 across the back. We kept it so tight and we denied them winning the league. It was beautiful.
Do you know what the term in soccer for a kind of sweeper, or used to be, was a libero? Like it was like a ball playing defender would come up the field. Maybe Ruud Gullit would have qualified. Remember when he went into defence for Chelsea back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Maybe he was a libero. We played a cup final with Bursley. This was, who was it against? Maybe Templetuohy or something in 05 or something like that. And we played the final in. So do you know the Greyhound track in Thurles? It's across from the stadium. So the centre of the racetrack, there was a soccer field in there. That's where we played. 1-3-0, of course. Beckenbauer, Verney, yeah.
You don't forget those things, though. You don't forget those kind of cool experiences now, I have to say.
Yeah, when my header was cleared off the line, yeah, it still annoys me. Okay, Michael Lothar Matthäus Verney. There you go.
Oh yeah, the comparisons. Wasn't it Matthäus that was off at the end of the 1999 Champions League final, and he was just in shock watching the 2 goals going in? Am I right in saying he was off the pitch, I think, for the last 5 minutes? Fairly sure he was. I think he was subbed off near the end. He was near the end of his career at that stage.
Would he not have been well retired by then? No.
Don't think. I'm fairly sure it was Matthäus. It was.
He definitely wasn't retired, because I'm fairly sure he was still in the Germany squad at Euro 2000. So yeah, if someone can look that up and let us know.
I just remember him. I remember him being in bits looking at it. He'd given everything. It looked like they were going to win the Champions League, and then all of a sudden they weren't.
And it wasn't Stefan Effenberg, no, one of them lads, no.
No, it wasn't Stefan. Stefan Effenberg he couldn't miss him. He's a big blondie fella, wasn't he?
Yeah, Joe Butler is saying yes, so I presume he's agreeing with you there. Right, so let's get to some of the more local Effenbergs and Lothar Matthäuses. Even though size profile, it's not quite him, but Adam Screeney, he didn't completely take over this game, and we're expecting big things from such a young lad at this stage of his career. He finished the game at 1-7, 1-2 from play. I have to say, 𝘬𝘓𝘓𝘗, who I had with the UCD freshers last year, and he was really, really good for us. And early doors, he played like a leader. I thought he did very well on him, considering the amount of ball that went in. And I think a couple of times he was done for over carrying the ball or whatever, very, very harshly. There was one over towards the stand in the first half when there was 2 players sitting on top of him, and he was done for overcarrying. Thought he did quite well, but to be fair to Screeney, he still had an impact. But would you be saying James Gorman was the man in full forward?
Yeah, but he was, because when they went direct and there was only a couple of bodies in around the square, he was the one that had literally had his hands on the 2 goals. Like, I haven't seen someone score a goal with their hand in a while, but it deflected off his hand into the net, and then he kind of broke the ball down for Screeney, who it was very like. It was kind of similar type of finish to his one against Wexford in the Leinster under-20 final this year. He just, there's no messing with him. He goes low every time. He makes it really, really difficult for the keeper. Fairness to Conor Seven, he actually pulled off a really good save in the first half, low down to his body as well. Screedy, I wouldn't say it lit it up yesterday, but he, the chances that arose, he definitely took them anyway, and his free taking was very good too. It was a funny type of a game. I thought Kilcormac were going to run away with it. And I don't know, a couple of things happened early on, and it's amazing, I think, particularly in hurling, how quickly a game can change. Kilcormac were 4-0 up. Killian Kiley had a free in his own 45, and I'm thinking, this is in around the edge of the square here. He went short, it was turned over, and 𝘧𝘓𝘂 put the ball over the bar. In the next play, I think it was Lee Cavan won a free for Kilcormac, and Screeney actually went and got involved in as third man, little Schmozzle. So from being 4-1, it should have been 5-1, free over the bar. It was a throw in. Then all of a sudden it was 4-2. And then all of a sudden it was 11-9 at half time. And I actually thought 𝘧𝘓𝘂 dealt with Kilcormac really well, maybe after the first 10 or 15 minutes. If you were looking at the Kilcormac lads, they actually didn't know where to puck the ball with the 𝘧𝘓𝘂 sweeper. Like they couldn't find Screeney. They couldn't really find Gorman in the first half either. And they were shooting from distance. Dunbar got a couple of decent scores. And you're kind of thinking, the breeze is strong here, but 𝘧𝘓𝘂 had himself in a decent position, particularly after how bullish their manager was, James Quirk, before the match about how they were written off, by us included. And
which I like that he came out defending his team, and I don't care the fact that they were beaten heavily for a finish. I still like that he came out and spoke that.
Well, he was obviously fired up over it. But like for 𝘧𝘓𝘂, only with some of the talent that they have, to only hit 3 points in the second half is like that's woeful. Like the Wexford champions beaten on home soil by 14 points, double scores. Like that is, to me, that's a a bad indictment of where Wexford club hurling is at the minute. And yes, there's a couple of things you bring into it and say, yes, it's very competitive, and any team can win. And Shells won a couple of years ago, and Raps won, and then Ferns won, and then 𝘰𝘄𝘂 won. It's competitive, but is it strong? I don't know if it is, and it's 14 points doesn't make up that 12 or 13 week layoff either, and that's far from ideal. And I think that's something they're going to have to look at. Clobán took a bit of a pasting in the Leinster Intermediate Championship over the weekend as well. They're definitely hamstringing their clubs going into Leinster, setting up the way they are. But I was amazed at how easily they were blown away in the second half, and they couldn't deal with a high ball. Couldn't deal with the high ball to the edge of the square at all. And that turned the game. Kilcormac had the game dead and buried by probably the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and the way Mount Leinster played at times in that first half, the wastefulness, we'll come back to it again, was that 13-week layoff a big issue for them, even though Paul O'Brien leading into the game was saying it wouldn't be. But just to come back to this game, I totally agree in terms of like in the 8th minute, that free being turned over, that was a momentum killer because I wrote that down at the time and 𝘰𝘂𝘂 got 4 the next 5 scores. Like Kilcormac had started so well and maybe the layoff was affecting 𝘰𝘂𝘂 early on because they got 3 turnover scores very early in the game. I thought, what's his first name? Cullen, the wing forward. I thought he did quite well.
Jack Cullen, yeah.
Cullen, sorry. I thought he did well winning ball. Let's see, they got 5 of the last 6 points in the first half as well. So they were motoring, and I tweeted at half-time, 𝘰𝘂𝘂 have settled well after a great start from KK. Extra pass and the comfort with which they were running out was hurting Kilcormac, and not sure that Kilcormac can do that running game as well. And the 𝘰𝘂𝘂 county players are operating at a higher level, and that's probably been telling so far. So I thought McGuckin, Conor MacDonald, and Carl Dunbar were all having an impact. But and like I said, it was all to play for. That didn't mean it would continue that way, and it certainly didn't. And like you were saying, the high ball. So look, you don't want to really name names, but like Tom Stafford was playing full back against James Gorman, and Gorman is a handful. But you have to spoil a man in the air. You can't let him get up and touch the ball. And Stafford was taken off a little while later, which I thought was strange because the next high ball that did come in, he did just jump all over Gorman and spoil it to his sweeper. But, you really have to be switched into that, like, very early doors. You cannot go up and... I'm not sure what the other game we saw. It actually was in this game as well. Remember, one of the wing-backs went up and he went to bat, I think, and hit Jack Cullen on the head. Who was the wing-back for Kilcormac that did it? I think it was number 5.
Jordan Quinn, I think,
it wasn't Grogan, it was the other one. Yeah. Okay.
Jordan Quinn,
He went up and slashed his head. I mean, really, as a back, you've generally got a +1. You've got to get up and spoil, lean on the man, put your body weight on him, fully, Tyson Fury an opponent in that situation. It's the one position on the pitch where you can more or less drape your body entirely on top of somebody and, you'll get away with it. So he really needed to make sure that he tied down Gorman for those high balls. And look, I don't like picking out a player, but I think the game pretty much turned on those 2 incidents. And you have to say the Wexford player, the county lads, Carl Dunbar, actually, to be fair, he did push hard in the second half. But I thought McGuckin and MacDonald, you're looking for a little bit more there. It didn't happen for them on this occasion. To be fair to Kilcormac, actually, the other thing, 𝘰𝘂𝘂, they had 7 goal chances, whether you consider them full chances, half chances, and sometimes there was like a chance and a follow-up chance. But there was 7 opportunities for a goal. They got 1 point from it. So they sort of left it behind them, any chance of being in this game.
I couldn't get over, Shane, with 𝘰𝘂𝘂, particularly in the second half, and even going through for goals. Like how they thought they were just going to be able to nearly plant the feet full length of the hurl and get a strike away. It happened 2 or 3 times where I just thought it was very kind of slow, kind of ponderous play almost in around there, where you have to be real killer. You nearly have to go down to the tape on your hurl to get the strike away. You just need to get the strike away. And it was real big and kind of loose. I just thought it was a bit strange. From a Kilcormac point of view, having started so well, and then kind of faded maybe out of the first half and not really had too many answers to what 𝘰𝘂𝘂 were doing. I thought they dealt with things really, really well and really, really professionally and kicked on, got a good few young fellas onto the pitch as well. Maybe that like James Matton had never played senior hurling before. That was his first game at senior, and a couple of other lads.
7 teenagers end up on the field for the finish.
There was definitely 5 anyway. And it was funny because I think it was Anthony Masterson, the former Wexford goalkeeper, that was tweeting just saying that those lads wouldn't even be allowed to play in the Wexford Championship, which is kind of mad, really. When you look at lads like Brecon Kavanagh was brilliant yesterday. Screeney had a good bit of an impact as well. And obviously some of those other lads coming in to imagine, it's mad to say that they wouldn't be playing in some other counties.
Yeah, and I just to bring it up here, this was what Anthony Maston said. If Screeney was in Wexford, he wouldn't be allowed to play adult hurling championship. But here he is lighting up in Leinster. 𝘱𝑚 did well in him, but what a talent he is. I think Kilcormac finished the game with 5 18-year-olds who wouldn't be allowed to play in Wexford. And of course, they would be allowed to go on and play in the Leinster championship, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they wouldn't be allowed to play in the county championship. Again, but you can't trust clubs across the board to make the right decisions with players. If you have the numbers, it's very easy to make the right decisions and hold on to players and kind of give them time to develop before you throw them out there. But a team that's kind of struggling for numbers or has injuries or whatever, there are situations where you're it feels like the only solution we have here is to throw in a very small 18-year-old. And I mean, it's hard to give out about those because those smaller clubs do need the players a little bit more than the bigger clubs who can, kind of stand up on high and say, look, we mind players. Well, it's easy for you. You've got 40 adult players.
It's easier when you have the quantity as well as the quality. Some smaller clubs don't have the quantity and they're kind of maybe lacking a bit of quality as well. And that's why they really need those lads to come through. We'll probably go into Loughlin's in a minute, but just the idea of Mikey Butler and Adam Screeney marking each other in the Leinster semi-final is that. To me, that is box office. And I got a little bit of criticism on Twitter or something for putting it up or something like that, saying you're putting pressure on Screeney.
You're putting pressure on Mikey Butler.
yeah.
He's only 23.
I definitely don't think that's the case. I just think this is going to be these are the sort of jewels that you'd be talking about for the 2 weeks before a game.
I want in Croke Park.
Yeah, I think it's in 𝘬𝘓𝘁, which should be an advantage to Kilcormac in fairness. But that's going to be a brilliant jewel. That's going to be a class jewel. And Mikey Butler, it's funny, he's only got 2 years of inter-county experience behind him. And a lot of people would have said that given his stature and size profile that he wouldn't cut it at inter-county level. I actually stood beside him yesterday because I was just interviewing him after. He might only be 5'6" or 5'7", but by Jez, he's all there. He's arms and everything. He actually went forward and got a point yesterday for our Loughlin's too. But that is a jewel to savour in a fortnight's time.
Yeah, it sure is. Okay, so anything else we want to say about that game? It is Loughlin's up next, like you've said. And by the way, neither a Wexford team nor an Offaly team had won a Leinster club game since 2018. That in itself is a fairly awful record.
Go away. Hadn't realised that. Hadn't realised that from our own county's point of view. I'll tell you something though. If you take the great Owler team out of it, name me a Wexford team that's made a mark in Leinster in the last 20 years.
I'd nearly just look it up quickly, just rather than guess.
At the very start of that, Rathnor might have had a bit of a run, but they just have been non-entities in the last while. I honestly think they're going to have to take a look at the split season, potentially go back to alternate weeks or whatever, because I don't know if it's doing their county team any favour with everyone being finished hurling the first week in August either.
Yeah, I'm going to look up and see if I can see the last time that it was a non-Owler.
Martin's played us in a Leinster semi-final. Kieran Russell has it up there in 08, I think. We beat them after extra time. But again, I'm talking about someone making, a real mark.
We played them there in, was it 2016 or 17? I can't remember. I really thought they'd be a team that would push and win a Leinster title in recent years. Remember, they got scotched by Ballyhale there a couple of years ago as well. Yeah. You're just wondering, with all this talent, how have they not necklaced together a nice few Wexford titles? Fair enough injuries, but sure, who doesn't have injuries? Look at the likes of 𝘬𝘓𝘂 and Dublin, who we're just about to start talking about, winning a county title without probably the best player that they've ever produced, Donald Burke. But yeah, the last team from Wexford to even get to a Leinster final was Rathnur in the 1998-99 season, and of course they won that time out. Okay, let's talk about 𝘬𝘓𝘂, seeing as we've just brought them up. They had a pretty nice victory, I would say, to go down to Mullingar and beat Raharney 124 to 19 points. Now, I would say the scoreline is a little bit harsh on Raharney because they had the game back to a couple of points with maybe 15 minutes to go. And then I thought a free was kind of harshly enough given against them. And the commentators were going a little bit kind of, haywire over. It was fairly one-sided commentary that I was listening to. But to be fair to 𝘬𝘓𝘂, they pulled it out of the bag. Sean Curry got a very important sideline late on. And they just turned the screw late on when it mattered. Like AJ Murphy popped up with 4 points again. Sean Curry the same. And this was without Shane Barrett starting as well. He came on for the last maybe 20 minutes. I can only assume there's a bit of an injury issue there as well. Killian Doyle got that red card late on, but he'd scored a couple from play and 10 frees. It's almost like an automatic every time he gets a free. Another incident as well was Owen Keys, you know, that sort of battering ram of an inside forward that you'd see with Westmeath as well. He was bursting through on goal. Now, it was hard to tell from the stream, but it looked like he could have been fouled. Maybe it was brilliant defending. I presume it was Conor McHugh who was the closest man to goal. But that was one of those decisions that can go either way. But, you know, full credit to 𝘱𝘐, got the job done. And a little bit generous on the scoreline, but you can't dispute what they've done.
Yeah, it's a tricky game for them, you'd have to say. They were going down to Mullingar a couple of weeks after winning the county final. They definitely enjoyed it. It was their first county final win. I kind of said it beforehand. I thought Raharney were a massive price. And I was looking at the game. I wasn't even on this, but like I know a lot of people are on Raharney +9, and I was looking at the game, and they were trying to force a goal when they were 8 down at the end, and I'm just like, put the ball over the bar. You're not thinking of any of us that have you in an accumulator right like that. But if they'd been beaten by 9 or more, it would have been very harsh on the scoreboard. There was throughout the second half, I was kind of glancing at that while I was looking at the Kilcormac game as well. There was only 3 or 4 points max between them nearly the whole way throughout the game, particularly in the second half. And then the 𝘱𝘐 got that goal. Maybe looked like they were going to kick on a bit more, but Raharney kept him very, very honest down the home stretch. And I know you read it out there. There've been a couple of bad results for Westmeath teams in the club championship in the last couple of years. I think Clonkill's draw with, was it Bowden, was the last kind of real good performance maybe they had in Leinster. Castledown took an awful pacing off Ballyhale last year, but that was very more than respectable from Raharney yesterday. From 𝘱𝘐's point of view, it's just a case of getting the job done, that first hurdle over, and sets up like a pretty novel enough semi-final pairing against Naas with a massive opportunity for the two of them. Someone's going to be in a Leinster final as a result of it. And it's funny, like 𝘱𝘐 could go on this run now of never been able to get over the line in Dublin, and all of a sudden they could be in a Leinster final, an open Leinster championship. But yeah, no, I thought they went about their business pretty professionally yesterday. You're muted there, Shane.
Sorry, you might give us a bit of insight into Naas's victory there.
Yeah, I was only watching bits and pieces of it, but it was a mad kind of a game because Camross started much the better, and then they tried to work the ball out the pitch. They were 5-3 up, I think, and tried to work the ball out the pitch a bit unnecessarily, to be honest with you. Do you know, like, I've no issue with that modern style and going through the lines and going through the hands, but I do think it's a bit overcoached at times, and lads are looking at that, and it's the default. But they were trying to work a ball out when the space was not there to be worked out. All of a sudden, turned over, bang, Naas goal. Same as Kilcormac been 4-0 up, and the game turning on a couple of small little decisions. The game turned in Naas's favour. I don't think they ever trailed thereafter. There were 6 up in the second half. Camross got a goal. And then about 30 seconds later, Dara Duggan, who I did an interview with in the paper last Saturday, lovely fella, he somehow ended up in front of goals. I don't know how he did, but he flicked the ball over the goalie, and it looked like it was going to roll into the net. And you were talking about astroing around the goals before. Had there been an astroing around the goals and not a load of mud as there was no more park, it might have went into the net. But instead, it just kind of changed of direction, ended up going into the post. 2 Naas defenders ended up going into the post as well. Absolute high drama. And then I didn't think the drama could get any more than that. And then at the end, Zane Keenan had a free that was brilliantly saved to force extra time. So in the end, Naas were the better team, but they survived in the wind-up.
Yeah, you have to give Cormac Gallagher huge credit there, because Zane Keenan had already scored a 21-yard free earlier on. You know, Naas had been 8 points ahead, as you were saying, going into the final quarter. But Peter O'Donoghue getting sent off in the 47th minute was not ideal at all. And like, if that had to go to extra time, then who would have known? Who knows what way it would have gone? Because of course Naas would have been back up to 15 men, but you would have had all the momentum with Camross. By the way, Camross have a very slick jersey. I know it's Kilkenny colours, which is regrettable, but the no sponsor on the front, I think, looks pretty cool.
It's definitely different, because even it's black and amber, but it's a different type of amber. It's not the Kilkenny kind of colour amber. It's a different. It's a very soccer-esque
don't they have a white
jersey
collar as well, which makes it probably look a bit different.
Yeah.
Will you check your Kilkenny jerseys there? You probably have a load of Kilkenny jerseys there if you want to check them.
There's a few knocking around. Their age profile Zane Keenan aside, would suggest that they're going to be strong enough for the next final. They're obviously one of the most traditional clubs. They are the most traditional club in Laois. But they'll be disappointed. This is their 5th or 6th time to go into Leinster. In recent times, the likes of 𝘧𝘬𝘀𝘀, the keeper, has never won a game in Leinster, which is disappointing. And they got very, very close yesterday. It would have been an injustice maybe to Naas, who were the better team overall, but Camross definitely could have forced extra time at least.
Yeah, and like, to be fair to Naas, what an achievement. 2 years in a row now they're into the Leinster semi-finals in both hurling and football. So as you said, they're against Na Fianna in a fortnight in the hurling, St. Lomans in football next weekend. And I don't think Camross can have too much complaints in terms of like being a little bit outplayed, because in terms of from play, it was 2-8 to 7 points to Naas. So they were probably just that little bit more dangerous. The 21, this is Paul Scully, the 21 Zane scored was from Naas lying on the ball on the line, free given rather than penalty. Was surprised since it was inside the small box, and that's what caused the drama in the 𝘱𝘬𝘀𝘀 football match. Yeah, that's a fair point too. I did think that was a penalty if you lie on the ball inside the square.
Yeah, inside the square, yes. Outside the square, no.
Yeah, but he's saying that it was on the line, so that would have to be in the square.
That would be inside. Yeah, it's a technical foul. Inside would be a penalty. Outside, I would have always said the line would be inside. It's 6 yards, the whole square, the 6 yard box. So the line would definitely be included there.
Yeah, Jay Kwan says Camross the only club from Laois to have won a Leinster club title. P. Scully says ball was literally on the line. Well, then it does sound like Camross were hard done by. And get your comments in, let us know, because I saw the free. I didn't actually see the incident beforehand, so I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Just in terms of the players who did the score, and Jack Sheridan got 110, 1-1 if that was from frees, or from place balls, or from open play, I should say. Cian Bourne with 4, Brian Byrne 1-1, Simon Lacey and Kevin Ahern with a point each. Zane Keenan with 113, Tomas Keys with 3, and Liam Delaney with a point. 2 Naas lads dropped their catches and dropped to stop it going over the line. So yeah, look, if that's the case, as far as I know, it's supposed to be a penalty.
Yeah, it should have been a penalty in that instance, definitely. Then, yeah, it was that. This was drama fueled at the end, and it looked like it's amazing. I always think it's amazing with a game like that. Had the ball hit the net, where you're going to extra time, whereas 5 seconds after it's saved, all of a sudden the final whistle is blown. The margins can be so small at times. Like 5 seconds later, they're celebrating. If it had gone in, you're preparing for extra time. It's a completely different scenario. But like we were chatting about it off air, I kind of thought Naas were a couple of points better going in, and we said it like Tom Mullally just gets a tune out of his team, and they win games that they should be winning, or that, you know what I mean? They rarely, any of his teams rarely underperform or misfire. They always perform to a really, really high level, and yeah, he's a good shot at getting them into a Leinster final now.
Yeah, so Mount Leinster Rangers 13 points, O'Loughlin Gales 216. And it did turn, I mean, number one, Mount Leinster, they shot themselves in the foot in the first half. The amount of scoring chances they had. They created 18 scoring opportunities. Now, this includes shots that were dropped short, being blocked down when you're going for a score, stuff like that. Both teams created 18 chances. 110 for Mount or O'Loughlin Gales in that first half. Great goal by Owen Wall very early on. Just 4 points for Mount Leinster Rangers. And like, Chris Nolan is a player we've talked about in glowing terms an awful lot over the years, but like the first half, it just did not happen for him. He had 6 attempts from play, scored just a point, and sometimes he was like planting the feet and getting blocked down in ways that you wouldn't expect him to. Now, maybe it's a case of forcing it. He's the main man and all that in the attack line, and maybe that it got himself a little bit panicked in the sense that he was trying to make sure that he impacted the game. Now, it came alive for him a little bit in the second half. Remember that point where I think Mount Leinster spoiled an O'Loughlin Gales puck out. He turned and blazed onto the ball, nice at the sole run, and fired it over the bar, which shows exactly what he can do all the time. But it just felt like any chance that Mount Leinster had to win this game, they threw it away a little bit with panicky shooting in the first half. And then the discipline went a little bit towards the end. Like Diarmaid Byrne coming on when he probably shouldn't have gotten the first yellow, the flake for the second yellow, he had to get a yellow for that. Even there, I see people saying that Chris Nolan perhaps was very, very lucky to not get sent off. Now, I actually missed that incident, but maybe a small bit of composure was the issue for a Mount Leinster team that hadn't played in 13 weeks.
This game was very like the Ballyhale game two or 3 years ago where they played in the Leinster quarter-final. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and they started poorly and were always chasing. and it half looked like they were going to get there, but they never got there. And Ballyhale, I think, won by 6 or 7 in the wind-up, and O'Loughlin's won by 9 here. Like, they were up by 10 at half-time, or up by 9 at half-time and won by 9. Like, you wouldn't have thought, like, looking at the second half, and in the 50th minute, when Chris Nolan got that point and left 4 in it, you're kind of thinking, all the momentum is with Mount Leinster Rangers here. But, like, this is where I think stats can be a small bit deceiving at times. Yes, they had loads of shots in the first half. Some of them were not in a month of Sundays would you be taking a shot on from where they took on some of the shots. They were really low percentage shots. Like, the option was not there. It was on the back foot. It was over the shoulder. As you say, it was lads planting their feet. I just don't think they got nearly enough fast ball inside. The ball that was going in was kind of, that kind of loopy ball that's so... defender, it suits a defender down to
the sort of ball that Hugh Lawler and Paddy Deegan will struggle with, I suppose.
Yeah, there you go. Like,
obviously.
You weren't going to put them under pressure with that type of ball coming in, and there was no kind of front foot striking. And I just thought some of their decision making in the first half left a hell of a lot to be desired. Paul O'Brien said after that it was nothing to do with the 13-week break, and they played some really good challenge games during that time, the likes of DCU, Ballygunner, Lucan, etc.
Naas.
Yeah, like they played very good teams, but in fairness to O'Loughlin's were clinical. Any mistakes that Mount Leinster Rangers made, they punished. Owen Wall's goal was brilliant. Like, you wouldn't have really said there was a goal on when he picked up the ball about 35-40 yards out, but he forced the goal, and that's something he tends to do. He doesn't really like putting the ball over the bar in general. He likes trying to, and even just the last little shimmy, Shane, at the end to take him away from the defender, and then it was in off his hurl into the net. He was quiet enough probably thereafter. Probably some of their unsung heroes were probably their better players. Jack Nolan hit 3 points from midfield, like a diminutive player, middle of the field, got through a mountain of work. Luke Hogan, when the game was really in the melting pot, and in fairness to Mount Leinster Rangers, I know they were on home soil, there was a fair support there now, and when things were brewing in the second half, you kind of had a feeling maybe that something might happen and they might be able to kind of bridge this gap, but they never really looked like getting a goal, never were able to get back to one score. And then when Luke Hogan came on, like, he was brilliant. He hit 1-1, and I think he was actually denied a goal chance. He had a goal chance in the 42nd minute as well. So, like, he's really, really staked a claim for a starting berth the next day. They have a good bench. Their forwards will not, they won't blow you out like any one or two lads. Mark Bergen was good yesterday, hit 3 points from play, kind of gets on a good bit of, kind of floats around and gets on a lot of loose ball. But they're not going to kill you. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to hit a 320 or something like that. But they do have lads that can come in and hurt you as well. And Joe Butler mentions Conor Heary. I thought he was outstanding in the county final. I thought he was even better yesterday. He caught 2 puckouts in the first half that they got points off. He was the one that was fouled by Byrne, I think, for that goal chance where Byrne ended up getting sent off. He got a great score underneath the terrace. He was obviously involved with Kilkenny last year, but had some injuries in that. I think I don't know if to be looking at him as a forward, but I've been hugely impressed with him as a forward, and I would have known him better as a wing back. I thought he was outstanding.
Yeah, it was 2-11-6 from open play, so that would give you an idea in terms of like the flow of the game. Like, Ed Byrne had a great chance for a goal in the first half, so he's the big full forward for Mount Leinster Rangers. It's been a great run, I think, from 𝘕𝘂 Fitzpatrick, like, who's very good at carrying through the middle with the ball. And Byrne had 2 bites at the cherry, but it just wouldn't go home for him. And like you mentioned there already, Mark Bergen, I thought he was good. Conor Heary as that ball winner, and he does an awful lot right. Paddy Butler, I know he was taken off with maybe 10 minutes to go. I actually thought he'd done enough to stay on, but look, it's up to management, that one. I thought he was quite good. So they've 2 sort of target men there, because they also have the smaller type players that you're talking about. Yeah, I thought Jack Nolan very good with his 3 points. And like Mikey Butler, Hugh Lawler and Paddy Deegan, they never looked fussed back there. Even though a couple of times, more so in the first half, they tried to work the ball out short from the back, which you do have to do because opposition are always going to drop back. And once or twice they nearly got caught. They nearly shot themselves in the foot once or twice, because it's such a dicey game at this time of the year. Like, and when they know that they don't have a forward line full of big ball winners, when you take out Paddy Butler and maybe Conor Heary, they're going to have to be able to mix it and take that risk, even, coming up to the Kilcormac game.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. I thought they did it well against Ballyhale. They worked a hell of a lot of sharp puckouts and worked the ball out. There was no ballooning ball. They don't have those type of players. So they have to work the ball out the pitch. They did it well enough yesterday. I thought this was polished enough from O'Loughlin's, considering it's 2 weeks since they won a county final. I'm sure they celebrated for the guts of 4 or 5 days. The 4 Kilkenny lads were all over in New York on the Kilkenny team holiday. I was chatting to Mikey Butler after, as I said, and so basically they went from training in Central Park to playing in Cullen Park. They trained in Central Park a couple of times when they were over in London, and I probably should have factored in the fact that Mickey Comerford was on the holiday as well, the Kilkenny S&C coach, but also the O'Loughlin Gaels one. So they did plenty of sessions. I'm sure they enjoyed themselves the first couple of nights and then maybe kind of tapered off and got ready for the game or whatever. But it's there that Brian Hogan's just happy to be on the road now. But they played Kilcormac in a challenge game during the summer when Kilcormac had most of their county lads and O'Loughlin's sitting, and O'Loughlin's actually beat them. But that's a tasty game now. That is a tasty semi-final. And I think from O'Loughlin's point of view, it's just a case of job done, out the gap, going down to Carlow, a lot of things against them going into the game. And they were clinical in the first half when they had to be. They were unbelievably clinical, and Mount Leinster Rangers were anything but, and were so wasteful with the ball and so wasteful, not even in front of the post. Like, this is why I just think shots and wides sometimes are just not realistic. Like, I just thought some of the shot taking was absolutely bizarre at times. It was really panicky, as you said, and they didn't do themselves any favours.
Hey, is Cathal Kiley going to be back for Kilcormac soon? Brother of Killian, of course.
He'll be under pressure. Yeah, he got a bad injury at the very, very end of the county final and had to get operated on a couple of days after. Be surprised if he plays this side of Christmas, been honest, from what I'm hearing anyway.
Yeah, Kieran Russell says, Shane and Michael, who's winning the Leinster and Munster Hurling Club predictions, lads? So, of course, you kind of strangely predicted Mount Leinster to win against O'Loughlin's, but O'Loughlin's to win the Leinster Championship. That's why you're squaring that circle.
I don't think that's what I said now. But
well, look, I'm paraphrasing. So, okay, what's your prediction now? Who's going to win the Leinster from here? And we might as well say what the semi-finals are. It's Na Fianna against Naas and O'Loughlin Gaels against Kilcormac Callaghy. Oh, that's horrible. How do we?
Yeah, the winners of KK and O'Loughlin's will win Leinster. But I was very impressed with KK yesterday.
What if Donald Burke is back?
Yeah, God, just actually got a bit of insight on him the other night. Actually, I was chatting to a Na Fianna man about him. He was actually went over to England about 2 or 3 weeks after that injury and got operated on. Be difficult enough to get back. Still think he won't have much hurling done for, he won't have probably hurled since June. Would I be right in saying June, I'd say?
Yeah, they lost to, when he went off against Clare.
Against Clare, yeah. No, I still think I'd have the winners of O'Loughlin's and KK as the favourites. I was very impressed with what Kilcormac did in the first maybe 10 or 12 minutes, and then what they did throughout the whole of the second half. Very difficult call, that one.
You go Ballygunner, I suppose. Look, we played easy. We kind of feel like Ballygunner would be number one there.
Yeah.
I think O'Loughlin's.
Yeah. When push comes to shove, I'd probably just about go O'Loughlin's. Just about. I tell you what, though, and I know we'll preview it the thirds beforehand. I do think Kilcormac have some tools that could hurt them, and maybe have more attacking options than O'Loughlin's have. It's a battle of the big three O'Loughlin lads, defenders. Mikey Butler, Hugh Lauder, and Paddy Deegan will probably try and tie down Screeney, Conor Mahan, and maybe James Gorman. Then you're thinking, will Charlie Mitchell be able to chip in with the 4 or 5?
He grew into that game, didn't he?
Yeah, he did big time. Yeah, like I'd say Kilcormac maybe have a better strength and depth in the forward line, and maybe more lads that can hurt them. And they've put up in their last couple of games, I don't have the county final score off the top of my head, but it was 320 something. They put up 222 yesterday. They had 22 points against Rhinus in the county semi-final. They're big scores to be putting up this time of the year. So they clearly have an attack that can hit that 23, 24 point mark at least.
And even yesterday, I don't think Conor Mahan was as influential as he was in, for example, the Offaly final. So you could end up getting a huge performance from him the next day. there's some of those real quality stickmen that we've got. Is it Colin Spain is the name of the midfielder?
Colin Spain, yeah,
Colin
lovely
Spain.
player.
He's very good at moving the ball around. Obviously, the likes of Screeney. What's the number 26 who started? He was quite good as well.
𝘰𝘵𝘮𝘀, I think. Yeah.
𝘰𝘵𝘮𝘀, very good at moving the ball around. So like you've got those quality little stickmen, but you have some ignorant pigs in the team as well. And of course, as always, that's a compliment. Like Gilmartin around the middle of the field. Obviously, Killian Kiley at centre back. Gorman Mahan.
Oisin Mahan. Now I said it to you beforehand.
Very good, wasn't he?
I thought he was brilliant. Like he kept McDonald completely out of the game. He's just like, if you'd said someone in Offaly had said to you 5 years ago that he's going to be like Kilcormac's fullback and one of the best players in the county, you probably wouldn't have thought so. But he has improved immeasurably the last couple of years. Probably, he's easily last 2 years. I would say he's probably in the top 5 of best club hurlers in Offaly, and he's probably in the top 3 this year. He's been outstanding.
Yeah, would you like to see Kilcormac go on and win this as a Burman?
No, I would. Yeah, to be fair, I was at their club final in 13, and we talked about it only a couple of weeks ago on the show. They were kind of half robbed the same day. They somehow ended up with 13 men on the pitch at the end, which was truly bizarre. They kind of maybe missed the opportunity that day. They were actually better when Ballyhale beat them after extra time in the Leinster final in 14. What age is the fullback for KK, Mick? Oisin Mahan's he's about 26, 27, I'd say. He's around a while. But no, Kilcormac are coming big time. And listen, it's like this. I'm not sick of them at the minute. I probably will get sick of them. You know the way it is. If they win a half of them, you'll get sick of them. But I'm not sick of them at the minute. And I know a good few of the boys personally, and they're good lads as well. So no, I'd only wish them well. Listen, could you say the same about other clubs in the county if they were outside representing Offaly? Probably not. But that's just the nature of it. And I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah, everyone's like that. You've got teams that you're nearly cheering on the opposition when they're playing in a provincial club championship. It's just the way it is. Michael O'Keefe, it would be great to see Kilcormac Clahy win. Great mix of youth and experience. In the Munster Intermediate Hurling Club Championship, Crotty O'Neill's of Kerry beat Ferrybank of Waterford 122-213. They're going to take on Castlelyons in the Munster semi-final. That's going to be at a venue called Mount Cole. That's quite a name of a place. Shane Nolan, he was very good. He scored 11 points. Jordan Conway had 5 from play. That was just in the first half. Darragh Donoghue, he was excellent. Scored 3 from play. Sean Weir, he was very good at the back as well. And the Waterford side, Ferrybank, just 2 points from play. So they can't really complain. Again, I know I probably a little bit in terms of like what did each team score from play, and of course the opposition can foul you, and you can score 15 frees or whatever. But I think if you're really creating chances from play, you're going to score more than 2 from play, like that situation there, or more than, was it 7 that I said about Camross earlier as well. Generally, you're going to get more from play if you're creating enough.
No, totally. I'd always look at it the same as well. You want to see a decent spread of scores, and you want to see a good spread of scores from play as well, realistically. It just shows generally that scores are coming a hell of a lot easier. Like O'Loughlin's scores yesterday were coming so much easier than any of the Mount Leinster Rangers scores. They had to work really, really hard for them, whereas O'Loughlin's tipped away a couple of really nice scores. They played lovely ball into the forward line as well, and they're playing to their strengths. And like from everything I've heard, everything I've seen, and anything around Kilkenny, like Brian Hogan's probably a manager that we're going to see a good bit of, I'd say, over the coming years, and potentially at Kilkenny Minor, Kilkenny 20s, maybe Kilkenny Senior in time as well.
Yeah, so Hurling 1 to 3 4 says Castlelyons are 3rd tier in Cork. Newcestown won the 2nd tiers, and they should represent Cork and Munster. So we've seen that in recent years, teams winning the 2nd tier in their county, but they're not sent through into the intermediate championship. But that's something that the GA need to iron out soon enough. So that means that Crotta, who won the senior in Kerry, are going to be playing against Castlelyons, who won the 3rd tier in Cork. So that's just a little bit lopsided. Hopefully that'll be sorted sooner rather than later. In the Leinster Junior Hurling quarterfinals, Leixlip beat St. Fechin's. It was 319 to 414. So that works out as, Leixlip beat St. Fechin's there. Tuller Ross Birkin, they fairly had it easy enough against Colchano, putting up 526. Father O'Regan's Cranford 725, Kildavin Clonagall 5 points, and Carrick Riverstown 120. Good Counsel Liffey Gales 310. So Carrick Riverstown Tipperary club, as far as I'm concerned, despite playing
a Tipperary area anyway. I wouldn't say Tipperary club. Be divided out there about who's Tip and who's Offaly or whatever. But we had Peter Fortune on the show on Thursday. He was obviously involved with the St. Feckin side. They just went down narrowly to League Slip. Coolera-Strandhill were annihilated, as you said. I think they'd been flying James Keys home for a couple of the latter stage games in Laois, but I don't think he was there at the weekend. And a good win for Carrigan Riverstown. They had to play a preliminary round game, I think, against the Westmeath champions. Now they've beaten good counsel 𝘂𝘂𝘁𝘗 from Dublin, so they're in a semi-final now the next day. Just fly through the Leinster Club intermediate quarter-finals as well. 𝘬𝘢𝘓𝑚𝑛𝑐 had a big win over St. Oliver Plunkett's. It was 220 to 7 points. Thomastown, they're All-Ireland intermediate favourites at the minute. They had a big win over Clubon, 320 to 112. Bray Emmett's 18 points, Portlaoise 16, and Kildalkey, who've won nearly everything in Meath this year, they had a 12-point victory over 𝘬𝘂𝘗, finished 220 to 28. Just on Bray Emmett's, that was a good win for Bray. John Henderson was missing, who'd be centre back and one of their best players, or wing back centre back and one of their best players, and Wicklow captain this year. And I'm hearing he might be available for Wicklow going forward into 2024. And Andy O'Brien is retired, and there's talk of Christy Morehouse, who's a Bray man, retiring as well. So they won the record and are going up into ring, and you kind of need everyone available to you. But that was a good win for Bray against the Portlaoise side that we said, they've obviously dined at kind of better tables than intermediate in recent years, and played senior a few years ago as well. So that was a good win for Bray, even though they're defending champions. Thomastown still overwhelming Leinster and All-Ireland favourites, you'd have to say, at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the inter-county quality that they have, it's going to be very hard to back against them. I noticed that Castlehaven, they needed extra time to get over Cratloe. Brilliant goal from Robbie Minahan. I'm not sure if you saw it. They worked the sideline routine well. Maybe he took 8 or 9 steps, but he managed to bury it into the bottom of the net. It was a game that only kind of sprung to life in the final quarter and in extra time. But Castlehaven, and they have the quality of the likes of the Hurleys there, Mark Collins, the Cahillans. So they'd be, I suppose, hopeful of making a good burst this year. They've got Waterford champions Rathgormack up next. I'd imagine they'll be heavy favourites there. On the other side, Clonmel, they're lined up to play Dingle on the 26th of November. Getting revenge for their loss to Newcastle West last week. Sean O'Connor and Peter McGarry, they got the goals for commercials. And it's, again, does it come back to the fact that Newcastle West are being thrown out a week after winning their county final? It's just not ideal.
It's not ideal. Listen, that's some of their own doing within the county as well. I don't think Limerick can have much complaints. The hurling final was played a decent few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. I don't know why the football was delayed as much. When you have those fixtures, you should be trying to give your team 2 weeks. I had a couple of private messages after we had Mike McMahon on the other day, and people passing through Newcastle West on Wednesday, and there's still a decent cohort of boys enjoying themselves, and rightfully so. That's, to me, that's what it's all about. But the idea of having to get rid of all that out of your system and prepare for a big game within a short space of time, very, very difficult.
Yeah, St. Bridget's, they're through after winning their quarter-final of the Connacht Championship against Coolera-Strandhill. Very one-sided affair. It was 9 points to 0 at half-time. Coolera-Strandhill didn't score until the 40th minute of the game. Ben O'Carroll was very good for St. Bridget's.
He's a good player, Shano, isn't he? He was brilliant throughout. What college is he playing with? He was mixing college and... It could be Maynooth, yeah. He was brilliant. He was brilliant for Roscommon through the league last year. Very, very good. Helped him obviously retain Division 1 status fairly emphatically. Yeah, he's definitely a player to watch over the next good while. Yeah,
and Brian Stack is a fairly well celebrated player for St. Bridget's and Roscommon. He's had a brilliant year. He was shutting down Niall Murphy, who's a brilliant player for Sligo in this game, but he suffered what looks like a bad knee injury. So we'll wish him the best, and hopefully it's not as bad as was first thought. The Sligo senior players for Coolera-Strandhill, it's not just about them, but Murphy, Keelan Cawley, Peter Laffey, they struggled to make an impression. And an under-20 star, Mark McDaniel, he was forced out of the game after an injury in the warm-up, which isn't ideal, but look, I think on the basis of 9-0 at half-time, 13 points to 1-3 for a finish, it was probably always going to be an uphill battle for them.
When I looked at the scores and I saw that Niall Murphy wasn't on the score sheet for Coolera-Strandhill, I couldn't believe it, number one, because he is one of the best forwards in the country on his day. So Stack obviously did an unbelievable job on him and kept him unbelievably quiet before he had to limp off himself.
Yeah, Ballina had it fairly easy against Fulham Irish after winning the county final by 6 points to 4 against Brafey. They kept Fulham Irish to 5, but at least they put up 3-11 themselves in this game. Mikey Murray and Niall Feeney with goals in the first half. Conor McStay got a third one late on in the game. And this was, to be fair, without Pádraig O'Hora, Dylan Thornton, and top scorer Evan Regan. They're out against Corofin next weekend. So they'd really want to be frank in their form to be ready for Corofin next weekend and hopefully have all those players available.
Yeah, Corofin had a win over the weekend. I think it was the under-19A. I think they won in Galway over the weekend. And Joe Brawley, as he does, wrote an unbelievably lyrical effort at praising Corofin. It's like there's certain clubs that he gets very excited about, shall we say. Corofin being one, Crossmaglen being the other. But I don't think him or anybody else would get too excited over what they saw on Saturday night out across Crossmaglen. That was, you probably saw a bit more of it than I did. One of the few things I saw was the dog going onto the pitch, which is one of the most entertaining aspects of the game. And the game was that bad that the dog left of his own accord. He'd seen enough.
Yeah, he was fairly anaesthetised by the action. So it finished 9 points to 4 to Trillick. So again, congrats to Trillick. Like what a season they're having without Mickey Gallagher, without obviously the star man for Tyrone in Matty Donnelly to win here. Across now, they've no Ulster title in 8 years. They were up by 4 points to 2 after the 26th minute. And despite having the powers of Rian O'Neill, Oisin O'Neill, Jamie Clark, Cian McConville, don't score for the rest of the game. So you're talking with injury time at the end of both halves, the guts of 40 minutes without scoring with all that talent. Aaron Kernan has since hung up his boots after a brilliant career. Now, Jamie Clark got a straight red card for a challenge on Seanie O'Donnell, and it seems across the board that tackle was condemned. So I don't think they have many complaints there. But to go 40 plus minutes, look, maybe things, it's completely the opposite of what management wanted to do. But God, that's a terrible reflection on what is a brilliant, brilliant club to score just 4 points.
Yeah, and even just with the names you mentioned there, like you're thinking on a given day they could score 3 or 4 each, let alone not being able to score at all. It's bizarre.
And 2 points from playing the entire thing.
Yeah, and like for Aaron Kernan, who's, oh Jesus, he's not going to go after Paul Hirty's record now either. I thought he might try and get to the 19 as an outfield player. That would have been unbelievable. What a sad way for him to go out, really. Probably like one of the worst cross performances of all time. What did he finish with? 18 county medals, six Ulsters, probably, or maybe even more. A good whack of All Irelands as well. It's a really disappointing way to go out. It's kind of hard to get your head around just how bad that second half was, and just as you say there, to not score for that length of time is just bizarre, especially with given the talent of attack that they have available to them. If they didn't have some of those players, or there was injuries or mitigating circumstances, you'd say something. It doesn't look like there's any excuses really.
No, Kilcoo, they're out. So
I couldn't believe that. I was surprised. I have to say, and I was really surprised when I heard that filtering around Netwatch Cullen Park. Yes, I thought they had a bee in their bonnet over last year, and they were really wanted to get a shot at the Glen again. But in fairness, I think you kind of half said it. I know he wasn't unbelievably influential yesterday, but having Jack McCarron available to Scottstown is just another little string to their bow. And yeah, that was a big one. They haven't got over the line in Ulster. They were beaten by Guido that time a couple of years ago when everyone fancied them to do it. Like Ulster is, even with Kilcoo gone, Ulster is very, very tasty in those latter stages.
Yeah, so I mean, Kilcoo had the game, and John, I've seen plenty of slings and arrows going around since last night saying, "Oh, do you know what? You deserve it after the row at the end of the down semi-final, after all the referee nonsense for the county final. You sort of deserve it." And that aside, you've got to say they had an opportunity to win this game. Paul Devlin, he knocked in a nice penalty. There's a quick turnaround from playing against Derrygonnelly last week and all that kind of stuff. But the credit really has to go to Scottstown, the way they managed the game late on. Their last 2 scores of the game, having gone into injury time behind, came from Kieran Hughes, one of the best kickers in the county. That's fair to say?
Oh, yeah, sweet.
And Rory Beggan, probably, leave Conor McManus and maybe Jack McCarron out of the conversation, the best kicker. Certainly the best kicker from the ground in the county, and up there in terms of the province and maybe even all of Ireland. Yeah. So they managed to get those 2 lads more or less on the same blade of grass on the pitch, the left side around the 45, onto the pitch, having shots right at the end of the game. you'd have to say fair play to them and David McCaig for how they managed that performance towards the end.
Beggin's free is just like that. Never veered off at all. It just stayed the same course the whole way. You love it. Like as good as 𝘱𝘂 𝘠𝘂's free was, maybe 𝘱𝘂 𝘠𝘂's free against Dublin was more dramatic because it's like 20 yards to the right and he's pulling it back in like a golfer. But the skill of Beggin to be able to keep that on a straight course the whole way, never deviated at all. And I don't know if you saw the one he scored from play. We must have been about 60 yards out. It was a little three-step kind of run-up. It was, you know, the way that the soccer goalkeepers kick out the ball. Now, they don't just hoof it with the instep. They kick it off the side. That was nearly like what he did. It was a fantastic score. It wasn't a great game, but it had a great finish. And Scottstown are singing last night, and I'm sure they're probably still singing this morning.
Yeah, and let them enjoy it. So Glen beat Carrigan. Carrigan were down to 14 men for the majority of the game. Thomas McCann, he had a fairly robust challenge. We'll put it on Conlon McGuckian in the 26 minutes. So that, of course, meant that Carrigan were sort of battling uphill. Malachy O'Rourke wasn't totally delighted with this performance. He said after the game, we were creating openings and not converting them. And you're always worried that might come back to bite you. And you're always at the mercy of creating a goal then, and that can quickly change the momentum of the game. But look, they managed to see it out. And look, I think Glen getting a win or two under their belts in the Ulster Championship, all of a sudden they're up and running. And like, we'll come to Naomh Conaill in a second, but Naomh Conaill, Glen, Scottstown, Trillick, it's a fairly tasty quartet. But how would you really back against the Glen from here?
No, I don't think you would, to be honest with you. Yeah, they weren't at their brilliant best yesterday, but they still got the job done, like, relatively comfortably, to be fair. And they were winding up, I would imagine, for Derry, and winding up for Slaughtneil. Maybe they wound down a small bit for a couple of weeks. They're starting to wind up again, all with that. And I'd say it every week until it happens, with that big Crokes game, hopefully in mind at some stage later on in the year, that big rematch potentially. But no, they're on the road anyway. And just like you mentioned Naomh Conaill there, and we'll go into it a bit more now. Like, the drama at the end of that game was absolutely outrageous. And you have to say, Naomh Conaill, like, it takes a lot for lads when the game is in the melting pot there not to panic. Like, it's one play and they had a free. It was kind of an awkward kind of a position. It was about 30 yards out, just a couple of yards outside the D on the right hand side. There was a load of people in the square. If he puts it in directly, chances are it's going to be a square ball. So he's like, he doesn't make it obvious that he's looking for a short until the last second, gives it to someone, gets it back, puts it in off the right peg. And the disappointing thing from Gowna's point of view is that they probably had control of the situation. One of the defenders had his hands on the ball rather than catching it. He palmed it away, and then all of a sudden, like 2 seconds later, it's in the net, and Naomh Conaill are celebrating. But like, these type of finishes to games, that's what we love about the GA, really, like, and how it can turn so quickly in the flash of an eye.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you then, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are the bookies' favourites for the All-Ireland Club football title at this moment in
time? By way of an easier passage to the latter stages, I would say Crokes.
Crokes they're 13-8. So then next up, Glen, Corofin, Scottstown and St. Bridget's are on the same. Then Castlehaven and Dingle. Then Clonmel Commercials. Jeez, I think Clonmel will be fairly insulted with that. And actually, that's one of the big things. When Clonmel come up against Dingle the next day, will Mark O'Connor be available? Because he was sent off in the county semi-final. I'm not even sure if he's back training with. Is it Geelong he's with? But will he be available? Because it's a different competition. So, and I've been trying to figure this out, but I can't get a straight answer. But yeah, like, Naas then 20-1 also alongside Commercials. Ballina 25-1, Trillick 25-1, other teams obviously further down the pecking order. But is there any team there that you think could be a real bolter?
At the prices, I'd say Clonmel. Because they've won. What price are they?
20-1.
Yeah, like, they've won Munster before. They took down Nemo last year. They would have been disappointed to lose to Newcastle West. Like, Munster is the easiest of the four provinces, is it not? Like, there's no massive big hitter there. There's no Nemo at their pomp, or even a Kilmurray Bricken or someone like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no, I'd probably have Clonmel there because I think they're the most likely at a big price to get to a semi-final anyway.
Yeah, okay. In the Munster Junior Football Championship, Kilmurray beats Sean Tracy's 216 to 116 after losing to Bars in the Cork final a few weeks ago. That's good going there, good recovery. Sean Warren with 1-7, Liam Wall with 1-2. In the ladies' Connacht football final, Knockmore 1-7, Kilcur and Clonberne 2-15. The Munster Club final, Banner Ladies 1-9, Ballymacarbery 2-13, and Leinster final, Kilmacud 4-18, Naomh Kieran 1-10. That was on Saturday. Jesus, Clonmel should be less of the odds, about 10 to 1, says Kieran Russell. And he points out that Glen are now favourites to win Ulster. Is there something you wanted to come in on?
Yeah, no, Ballymacarbery won the Michael Ryan Cup, named after the great Michael Ryan, and I think his daughter was playing. That's one of many Munster titles they've won now. Naomh Kieran from Offaly were beaten in the ladies' Leinster football final by a really strong Croke side. Crokes hit the ground running right from the very off, and left the result in no doubt. And obviously Kilcur and Clonberne, who must be going for 3 in a row at this stage, I think they are. They had a fairly comprehensive win over Knockmore. So probably, if I was to say, I'm not too sure of the semi-final pairings, but I would have Kilmacud and Kilcur and Clonberne as the two probably best sides in the country. And what will Shane Walsh do if they end up playing? That's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely. Huh?
We'll make it even more interesting than it already is.
Yeah. Trounspeeder says that Castlehaven surely have an easier route than Clonmel. Big win for them yesterday over Cratloe, and Cratloe are decent. Yeah, to be fair, you would imagine that Castlehaven would have fewer problems with Rathgormack, and I don't want to totally do down their chances there, but you would imagine it would be a tighter game between Clonmel and Dingle, which would make Castlehaven's chances that slight bit easier.
Yeah, no, it probably is an easier passage after getting through Cratloe yesterday, who'd obviously been in a provincial final before. They probably do have an easier passage. Shane, I want you to bring up the video that was on our game yesterday of the tunnel in Netwatch Cullen Park. I have to say, like, I just love everything. I love everything about this. It's so old school, and then you have what looked like almost like Rastafarian colours. They're obviously the Carlow colours, but someone said they were expecting Bob Marley at the top of the steps, given the colours of the tunnel. But there is no better entrance to a ground in the country than this.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. All with that. We had a few smart arse tweets about the smell of P1SS in there, and the whole lot. But no, it's class. It's really cool.
While I was in the tunnel, there was no smell. It was just sweat anyway. But look how narrow it is. Like, it's like, and even the fact that the steps are coming onto the pitch. Like, can you imagine lads coming in after a game or a half time? I love this shot here. Just absolutely picturesque. But like, surely I'd say lads have been pushed down those steps down through the years. Joe Nolan, who's lived in Carlow for years now, just replied to my tweet and just said you wouldn't believe some of the stories or things that have happened in the tunnel. I probably would. I would well believe it, to be honest with you.
Kieran Russell says, as a Waterford man, I don't think Rathgormack will win against Castlehaven. Looks like a wibbly wobbly wonder there in Carlow with them colours.
Yeah, not a bad show. Not a bad ice cream back in the day. It was the toes on the foot, wasn't it, with the bit of chocolate over the toes. Am I right in saying?
No, that was the freaky foot.
Oh, well, obviously, sorry, yeah. Freaky foot. I should have guessed that. That wasn't a bad one now either.
No, the Wibbly Wobbly Wonder was the one that was it sort of reddish, maybe strawberry or raspberry ice cream. Then there was a sort of a yellow, or was there a sort of green icy thing? And then, I don't know. Was it the jelly then on top, the yellow jelly with the chocolate around the top?
What was the favorite lolly?
Mine?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a chunky choc at one time? It was like a choc ice, even chunkier. But like yourself, I'd be fond of an iceberger.
I had 3 of them the other night. They were beautiful.
Snickers ice cream, underrated.
Yeah, not bad. I love the I think they're back out now, actually. I used to love the Feast with the little chunk of chocolate in the middle, and you'd eat all around it, and you just leave that chunk of chocolate then when you were finished. Mint Feast.
Yeah, but aren't they after getting Maynard with that lump of chocolate in the middle of it?
Yeah, they're gone brutal. Like, it's amazing. Remember back in the day, like, what you'd get for 10 pence, like this big lolly or a big packet of crisps or something like that. You'd pay €2 for something out and you wouldn't get half the size of it.
Oh, geez, back in the day, you get that easy. Remember the Fat Frog ice cream?
Oh, yes.
Brunch, iceberger, all controversial and debatable. Sky Bar, that sounds familiar. I can't fully remember what that is. Do you know what's underrated? A Bounty ice cream.
Very, very nice. I'm a big fan of the coconut now, I have to say. Big fan. I'd throw coconut into anything like that. I was making buns or anything like that if I was making them. The old loop. Very, very good, yeah. I got mad into, there's boxes of like, I think is it gelato or something like that? They're basically these mini magnums. They come in white, dark chocolate, normal chocolate, and then kind of like a nutty kind of a thing, but there's 3 of each. And I won't lie, like after a match, I wouldn't be far off taking care of a box now.
I put 2 almond magnums full size down the hatch last night.
No better man.
Yeah. David Hogan, any thoughts on Nina CBS winning the Dean Ryan for the first time against Flannan's? Tips school's been excellent the last 2 years. Hey, so say all of us. Long may it continue.
Did you see the penalty decision in that game?
It was, I did, yeah.
It was a bit mad. Apparently, it was for what the keeper did, and it maybe half looked like he swung across, but it also looked like he got the ball. I didn't see a penalty in it, and I know a lot of Clare folk are very disgruntled that all big decisions seem to go against them in all different ages and grades of games. Right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm just telling you what the people are saying in the banner. So
what about this? Go to the week.
Go to the week. As ever. I'm going to give it to Oisin Matten from Kilcoo, because I thought he completely nullified Conor McDonald at the edge of the square. Thought he was absolutely outstanding. And obviously, Gorman got 1-3, and Screeney, who has been compared to David Clifford in some media outlets, which is absolutely bonkers and just ridiculous and putting way too much pressure on him for a lad that is in his first year of senior club. They probably take the headlines, but I thought Oisin Matten was outstanding.
I give it to Kevin McGettigan in the football. Do you have a football one, and then I'll come back to my hurling one?
Do I have a football one while I try to buy time? Do I have a football one? Rory Beggan for like just the nerveless way he put over that free to win a game and take out a big force in Kilcoo.
I'm going to give it to Cormac Gallagher of Naas for that late save. That basically got them through. I think we have a couple of comments here just before we finish up. Can't beat an iceberger. The Carlow colours remind me of the traffic lights colours. I always think of, do you remember the package that Bird's custard used to come in?
Yeah.
I always
very good.
Emily89 says, if Carfin get Dahi Burke, Ian Burke and Ronan Steele back and get to Croke Park, they'll win. Still have Glen as favourites and would like to see them win it. Don't think Crokes will win. I think that's it for the show. If you want to get the audio podcast, go to patreon.com/OurGame. It's also a great way to support the show. Independent Irish media, as we are. If you want to do a fundraiser with us, email events@ourgame.ie. It's also a place if you want to set up a coaching clinic with us. Michael, anything else before we finish up? Are you happy enough?
No, but I'm looking forward to previewing Clonlara and Killidangan on the Thursday show. And maybe there might be a little forfeit in it. If the tip team don't win, there might be a little forfeit for you. We might get a forfeit from one of the Clare viewers, maybe.
Okay, all right. Well, we look forward to then. See you all then.
See you, Shano.